fourth quarter fanatics, baby. We're back. We're back. It's that time of year. It's fantasy football season at its finest. Right now, currently, we got 4 games going on live in action. I am Pat. You guys can find me at selfless_gaming on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. We also have the fourth quarter fanatics page for Twitter, or X as we should say now. So yeah. Well, Jacob, go ahead and give out your socials, buddy.
Yeah, Little Jacob. Little is the 3 and 7E. You can also find me on TikTok, Twitch, what is now just I guess called X. And also have a Facebook page. And yeah, you can reach me on socials. I'm usually pretty active on there.
So, all right. Well, we currently have 4 games going right now in the preseason. We got Bengals, Packers. We have Steelers, Bucks, Giants, Lions, and Falcons, and the Dolphins. Last night, Houston Texans played. CJ Stroud made his debut. He got 6 plays total. I'm not going to lie. I really hope they do not play that young man this year, because the very first play, he got sacked for 15 yards by a guy that came right up the middle. Beat the center, like one-on-one, just ran right by him. So it was pretty bad. I felt bad because I was hoping to see him get more snaps, but I think it was more of an adjustment of, hey, let's throw him out there, let him start, see how he does. Let him get accustomed to the speed of the game and stuff. But it was pretty evident he wasn't going to play. So.
Yeah, and there was one play where he just got smacked, dude. Like he let go of the ball, and just seconds after he got hit pretty hard. So
yeah.
They're probably like, yeah, let's not keep him in here for this.
That was one where he was trying to like rush to like get the first down, and he got hit, and then I think the ground caused the fumble because they ruled him down. But yeah, his first 2 plays, he got sacked for 15 yards, and then the second play, he's running around like crazy trying to avoid people. And the third one, I don't know, like he threw a pick, but I felt like his wide receiver, when he came out of his break, like he was going to run a comeback route, and he came out of his break and he just like kind of stopped. Like he didn't continue to work back to the ball. So I don't know if there's like miscommunication on his part or like Stroud's part, but he got 6 plays. He may get more during the preseason, who knows, and everything. But their offensive line is pretty bad. The Texans' offensive line is pretty bad. So
they really I see that they really shrunk the preseason, because they had the one game last Thursday, then this Thursday was another game. They're having these 4 games tonight, and then they're having quite a couple tomorrow, and then like 2 Sundays. So that's already like week 2. There's only going to be like 2 more. They got 2 or 3 more games.
Yeah, I think they did. We did lower it 1 game, didn't they? I think they did.
Yeah, I believe so. I completely forgot about that too. So when I saw the schedule, I was like, "What? Oh, okay." I was all confused.
Which I'm fine with, because I feel like in less than a month, man, like 3 weeks away, the season starts. So usually it's like college football kicks off, and then the following weekend NFL kicks off. But the first NFL game is September 7th. So, and I'm all for it. Like, get it here, get it going.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some like injuries that have come up with like some players in the preseason. One of the biggest ones that we got to talk about is Joe Burrow. Like, he ended up straining his calf, I believe, is what it was. A lot of people don't think it's anything serious, anything like too egregious of a concern, but he definitely came pulling up on a play in practice. There is one of those non-contact plays. Here, he did have a sleeve on his leg, but those are the type of injuries, man, that can definitely linger. The calf muscle does a lot of work, throughout stabilization, and like obviously generating power and force to like propel somebody forward. So I don't know, somebody like that who's got to drive off his back leg and throw a ball a lot, those things can kind of linger a little bit. He's indicated in conversation that he should be okay, but that's definitely one from a fantasy perspective you want to keep your eye on for sure.
Uh,
I saw today Devontae Adams has apparently suffered a right leg injury, limped off the field during a joint practice with the 49ers. With what appeared to be a right leg injury, Adam was sandwiched by 49ers linebacker Oren Burks and cornerback Javarius Ward while running a slant pattern early in 11-11 team drills and stayed down for a minute before being helped to the sideline. He later walked gingerly to the Raiders locker room and pointed to his calf area. So there you go. It's a pretty big loss for Garoppolo if he can't go. What other injuries have there been? Wasn't Ramsey? Didn't Ramsey get hurt? Jalen Ramsey?
yeah, he's gonna be out for a good amount of time.
What
Yeah.
did he have happen again?
I have to look it up, but I think he tore something.
Was it his Achilles? ACL maybe? I don't know.
I'm trying to remember what injury he had at the time. So I don't think it was a month or two back, but yeah, he's gonna be out for
where's he at
a long
now?
time.
Where'd Jalen Ramsey go? See, I can't even keep up with everything, man. Is he with the Dolphins?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's in the Dolphins now.
Oh
yeah, he tore his I guess he had to repair his meniscus, a full meniscus repair, it says.
Oh, that's not too bad then. Like he'll be out for a couple weeks. Guys with meniscus, they can bounce back pretty quick. So it's not too bad.
but that sucks for them. I mean,
that defense is already hurting. They've looked terrible throughout preseason, like camps and stuff. I know the Broncos lost somebody. Where the hell are the Broncos?
It kind of just seems like there's like a lot of knee injuries that are popping up around like training camp time, and I just kept seeing notifications of players going out with knee injuries.
Yeah, I mean that's usually the freaking case, man. I think that's kind of been historically what it is. I think it's Tim Patrick. Let me see, Tim Patrick tore his Achilles. They placed him on injured reserve. He did that during like a training camp session and stuff. Was running around, pulled up, ended up tearing his Achilles. So, one of the I wouldn't say he's a dynamic wide receiver, but he had a pretty good season last year for fantasy wise. He ended up having 5 touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards. So he definitely could have helped Russell Wilson and Sean Payton this year with that offense, but so they're already down one key receiver. Let's see here. Injuries. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head as far as injuries go.
Yeah, I mean, those are probably the biggest ones. Jalen Ramsey, Joe Burrow.
Who do you think, as far as the off-season maneuvers this year and everything that had taken place, who do you think is going to be like a key addition to a team that can actually help the team win, but will also be like a upside for a fantasy roster? And who do you think's like transition actually hinders their team and the overall performance and actually might hurt them fantasy wise?
Definitely Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Raiders. I mean, him over there with Devontae Adams, and then you got Jacobs, who led the league in rushing last year. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. That offense is going to probably be looking a lot better, than it has been in the last few years, especially last year. I mean, it was really bad at one point. The only one that was really putting offense together was the running game, and I think that you're going to see an Oakland offense go out there that actually has really good passing attack, a lot like what it used to be. But now you got Devontae Adams out there. You got Jacobs. You got a couple of pretty solid tight ends, and they got some other good players, a group of receivers. So I think that's going to be a big addition for them. And fantasy wise, and help you out if you can get Adams, and I think you would have a really good shot at having a big splash in the fantasy world if you can draft Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, like I said, he has a couple of weapons for him on offense, and I mean, I think he's a lot more better at decision making than Derek Carr. Um, knows how to make tight throws in small windows. When the game's on the line, he can convert, make the plays to keep the drive alive. So
He manages
uh,
the game a lot better. Like
yeah,
Derek
yeah,
Carr
you
was trying
don't
to
have
force a
to.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, you
And
don't have to. You don't really have to coach Garoppolo so much as you just have to just tell him what the game plan is, and then he kind of takes it from there.
I think personally, I think a team that's kind of improved in the offseason,
Hmm.
um, definitely the Seattle Seahawks. They had some weapons last year. I think Geno Smith being the head, like starting quarterback for a second year in a row now, they have improved on defense through their draft. They're kind of getting back. They're trying to get back to that mold of, the what was it, the League of Boom, um,
Yeah,
and seeing some of their DBs and stuff last night. They definitely get after it. Their run game definitely still needs support. But with the addition of Jackson Smith and Njigba, who's going to be in the slot, you got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf on the outside, and then you got Kenneth Walker, who's as your running back. I think their offense is going to be able to compete and keep them in games. I think they're going to be pretty hard to stop. I
yeah,
personally, if you can't grab like DK or Tyler Lockett, I personally, depending on what you're in, uh, if you're in a like PPR league for fantasy, I would definitely go after Jackson Smith and Jigba because he started off their series last night. First play, they got the ball right in his hands. He got like 2 yards. Should have had a horse collar, honestly, called for him by the way they got like perform the tackle, but they didn't. I see him being utilized a lot in motions and trying to get the defense to like readjust their coverage. And his whole college career, he did a lot of damage across the middle against linebackers. He has good size to compete across the middle, and he definitely has that speed to take something as far as like you get him out in the open, he can definitely break away. So I think that's a big improvement for their offense. They definitely loaded up. And I think the Chicago Bears having DJ Moore there now, I think they actually are starting to develop a little bit more weapons for Justin Fields. So I'm not like tipping my hat on the Bears right now, but they're definitely trying to bring in assets for Fields and what he can potentially like contribute to that team, that offense. So they're definitely trying to surround him with the pieces that he needs. So that could be a team that actually has like some uplift this year compared to where they were last year. How do you think some of the rookies are going to do this year? Like Bryce Young, for example, being the Carolina Panthers quarterback. What do you think about him? What's your projections for him this first year?
um, I think it might be it's definitely going to be probably a big adjustment for him just because he's undersized, and
Let's see.
things are gonna be a lot faster than they were than he's used to playing, and kind of like we talked about. Or you saw with C.J. Stroud. I mean, their offensive line may not be that bad, but the game's gonna be really fast, and he's not gonna have time to just sit back in the pocket like he did in college. Um, I think things are gonna come. I think things are gonna be coming to a head for him here pretty soon. But I think he'll do all right. I don't think he's gonna do bad. I think he'll do good. It's probably gonna take a little while for him to kind of get into the rhythm with the team and just kind of build the chemistry. It's hard. It's hard to play quarterback. It's even harder when you're just a kid and you're just taking over an entire NFL team. All that pressure and every spotlight's on you to do that, and that's a big thing to handle. And so that's also going to play a factor on just on how he can handle being in that kind of a moment. Because we've seen things like this where you have really good college players that come and play a quarterback, a football team, and a professional football team their first year, and it doesn't always work out. Most of the time, it doesn't work out as well as you would hope, right? Or you might
Yeah,
think. So I would say I don't have my hopes up too much, but I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be solid. And if he can really pick it up, uh, I think he'll do really well because he does have some nice pieces around him. He does have some weapons on offense. I mean, it's not like he's the only one out there, and he's kind of just playing alone. Kind of like with Stroud, like he does have some pieces there with like his running backs and stuff. But I would think that this guy here in Bryce, I think he has a better team around him than what
Yeah,
CJ has to work with.
and he's also got like they acquired Adam Thielen in the offseason. The Panthers
Yeah.
did, so that's a solid
Yep.
weapon for him.
Yep.
They still have DJ Chark, however you say it. He's been solid. He's had solid performances. You got Miles Sanders, solid running back from Philadelphia. He's had a tremendous career. They got Chuba Hubbard, and you also have this is one thing that I like is you have a very seasoned veteran quarterback in Andy Dalton that is there for
Yeah.
him that can definitely mentor him. He's been in the league for a long time. Andy Dalton's been around to different teams, so he's been a part of different systems. And that's definitely somebody that can be a good mentor for him, help him understand the game. I don't think Bryce Young is going to struggle with the speed of the game. I think what he is going to initially struggle with is how well teams can disguise their coverages, because a lot of these guys that are going to be in the secondary, they're running like 4.4s or less. So you can see them adjust to one coverage and show you something, but then they can quickly get out of that at the snap of the ball and get into something completely different. So I think his reads will be all right and stuff. I think speed wise he'll be okay, but it's just identifying that he might take him a year or two, or he seems like a pretty smart kid. Nick Saban's always talked highly of his intelligence and stuff, so he might pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah. So I got a list here that I was looking at because I try to look at some as far as fantasy football, especially because now with the guys at work, they're trying to do more money in the pie, which I'm fine with. But now that we're kind of getting more into the fantasy football competition with this, with the same guys I've been playing for a couple years now, I'm trying to get better about this and kind of not just wing it on just what I'm doing. So I've been looking at just what the NFL fantasy analysts have been talking about and just looking at their lists and just getting some information and trying to take things into consideration that they're talking about because of course they get paid to do this and do football stuff 24/7. They actually get to see the players, productivity, how they're doing in practice, all that. So they usually have a good, real insight on fantasy football. So there's a list here of quarterbacks that they would have as far as top 10 quarterbacks. You got Lamar Jackson number 1, Deshaun Watson number 2, Tua, Russell Wilson at number 4, which is man, you want to say. I feel like that's kind of a reach. I feel like that one's a reach for sure. We can go back to that, but then there's Geno Smith, Anthony Richardson, who is a rookie, the Colts. I mean, that could go either way, right? Like we were just talking about rookies, play good in college, whatever. But sometimes the rookie that you may not have anticipated to be that big name in football, like Richardson, who knows? Maybe he really comes in and lights it up this year, like Kyler Murray did his first season, and a couple of Dak lit it up his first season. Sometimes guys come from college from these smaller schools, or they're not maybe as big names, but they go out there and with the kind of pieces they have around them on their team that they're getting lucky to get control of, they can be really successful. Anthony Richardson might have that opportunity with Jonathan Taylor if he decides to play, and everything works out with that. That's going to be a big boost for him. You got Anthony Richardson, then Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, and number 10 is Matthew Stafford. So this is their top 10 list. I feel like you can interchange some of those.
What is this league though? Because how the hell is Patrick Mahomes not on there? How's Joe Burrow not on there and Jalen Hurts?
I don't know. So let me see here. Let me see what they put in regards to that.
That has to be underperforming or something. There's no way that's their top 10 top performing quarterbacks. If so, those people need to be fired, bro.
I don't think that it's not saying that they're not top to pick. It's just that if you can't get Patrick Mahomes or you can't get Josh Allen, because it says here it feels good to have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen lineup here, because you already know okay, Patrick Mahomes, that's off top. You're gonna get Patrick Mahomes, you can get Patrick Mahomes. I think this is just a list of guys to get that if you're in case you're not able to get the very best of that position. I guess you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's why when I read this too, I was kind of wait, what? But then I see what they're trying to consider.
That's
you don't get those guys.
That's that list where it's focus your team around wide receivers, running backs, tight ends.
Yeah.
And then it's in the late round, these guys will probably be available and can be very consistent points for you. I've done that in the past.
Yeah.
I've like really focused heavily on running backs, wide receivers, and then kind of got like a tight end fourth round, and then it was like round 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I would take like Philip Rivers and like Ben Roethlisberger in the past because they had
Yeah.
this potential to have crazy big games, but like
Yeah.
every week you're gonna get something very consistent out of them, and then like of course the last few years they struggled and stuff, but so
I think I'm
I get what you're
gonna.
saying. I get
I
that
think I'm
list.
gonna have to go with the quarterback this first round, man, because I feel like last year, especially, like I went for the first round, I got a receiver, and by the time I realized it, I found myself like on the bottom of the bottom end for getting a quarterback, and it was like, okay, Tom Brady, and hoping he has a really solid season,
Oh
or like
yeah,
somebody that's like not guaranteed to do great at all ever, and it's like. So I went with that, and it worked out for me so well. So I think this year I'm gonna have to draft higher. At quarterback, it might even just be the first pick, so I'm gonna consider that. Um, but no, I do like that for these lists. Instead of like trying to wing it, like I have, like if my guy isn't there on the board, is to have like lists like this so you can at least have a checklist of, okay, this person's off the board. Who does that leave me with to look at next in case they're not drafted?
yeah.
Instead of putting yourself like in a pressure position where you're like, okay, and you're just kind of like sporadically drafting because you run out of time or whatever. So I'm trying to be a little bit smarter about it.
I
So
think
I thought that was a pretty good list to have, like in the back of your pocket.
I think some of that plays a factor too in where you draft.
Yeah.
So like for example, if you're, I think we have 12 people in our league this year. I think I'm
Hmm.
drafting 11. What's up, Desi? I think I'm drafting 11. So for me, I'm going to try to get like a high tier running back or a high tier wide receiver. And
Yeah.
then when it comes back around, because it's the snake, the next person I'm going
Yeah.
for is Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow. Like I'm getting one of those quarterbacks because every year I've always taken Patrick Mahomes for my second pick because I've always been like stationed and set up in the draft to be kind of like you get a pick, then there's a couple more in front of you, you get a pick again, and I always snag him. And dude, his performance every year has gotten better and better, and even his bad games, it keeps me in those fantasy games. But his ceiling is so high, dude. Like he can drop a 50-point game like it's nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that depends on where you're at in the draft. And
Absolutely.
you also have to always evaluate what are people doing prior to you. So like I've done that, and what's usually happened with that is when as soon as I pick Patrick Mahomes, the next 2 or 3 people behind me, all of a sudden they'll go like Allen, Burrow, Lamar. Like you'll see all these quarterbacks just go real quick. And then it's like, okay, that's great. Now all these quarterbacks are off the board. But then
Yeah.
by the time it gets back to me, now I actually I got some higher tier wide receivers that are still available. I can get another second solid running back. I can possibly get a really good tight end now because everybody freaks out like, oh shit, I'm going to miss out on a quarterback. When
Yeah.
really it's like you're okay, you know. So I'm very much aware when I'm drafting of like where am I in the draft and then what people are doing in front of me. Like what's the trend going on in front of me. So
Well, okay, so we'll just since we're talking about it now, we'll just put you on the spot, and if you get the first draft or you get the first pick at quarterbacks, who are you getting and why?
oh, definitely Patrick Mahomes for sure. Um,
Hmm.
with the roster and stuff that they had, like there was concerning moments last year with like the absence of Tyreek Hill
Yeah.
leaving, and then like who they brought in. It was kind of like okay, like who's going to be that big play guy for them that can stretch the field. Travis Kelsey was pretty much became that guy. He stretched the field across the middle for them.
Hmm.
Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, had a better performance last year than he did prior years. I think with the loss of Tyreek Hill, it actually helped him become more of a I don't want to say conservative quarterback, but like he was a lot better with his reads and play calling that was done for him instead of like big home run shots. You know what I'm saying? So like he ended up getting a lot more yardage and completions because a lot of stuff was more short
Yeah.
to intermediate. If Patrick Mahomes is not available there, I would go Joe Burrow as number two. And the reason I say Joe Burrow as number two is because Joe Burrow will give you, with what they have in that offense, this will be his third year. You got to monitor that injury, though, like preseason injury. It's his third year in that offense. This is kind of a make or break year, in my opinion, for them, because after this year, you're going to have tons of contracts that start to come up with like Chase, Boyd, Higgins, Burrow, like all these guys. They got to start allocating money. Joe Mixon is going to be in conversations of money and stuff for his performance. So I would definitely go him because that unit is young, they're explosive, and they have good chemistry together. The reason I would not take Josh Allen is because there's been a lot of negativity in camp with him and Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs has had a history of when he's not happy and he's annoyed with his personnel, he becomes very vocal, and his play kind of gets hindered a little bit with that.
Yeah, you're not focused. Yeah, for sure.
So that's why I would not go Josh Allen at number two if I can't get Mahomes. Mahomes is coming off the board first, boys. He's coming off the board first.
Yeah. So see, what I was gonna say was that now I'm trying to also think in terms of, okay, Mahomes, that's a given. He's on the board. You get first pick. You just get him. There's no question asked. But I try to think in the terms now of what if that person isn't. Who would I look at next that I would want to take the pick at? And for me, I think that's Justin Herbert. I think he had a pretty good season. I think he made some pretty good strides. I mean, he's still young. He's still getting learning the game. I think he's coming into his own there. He still has a lot of weapons there in San Diego. He still has a defense that could play better, up to their potential, and they'd be a lot better. They kind of put it on a little bit in the regular season. But I think Justin Herbert's going to be a big part of that. 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But he's a big part of that offense, almost throwing for 5,000 yards. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes wasn't just the player he is, you'd probably have Justin Herbert being leading the league in passing last year. He was only second. So
one thing I'll say is I'm thinking in like the aspect of my league.
Mm-hmm.
My league, the way the scoring is set up, it very much favors quarterbacks. So
Yeah.
if you have a quarterback that is like on a high passing team, can generate a lot of touchdowns and not throw a lot of interceptions, like you can rack up a crap ton of points in our league. If I was in a standard league where it's like the scoring's normal for passing and rushing, I would honestly go with Lamar Jackson because of what he has around his team this year. What they brought in. He got his contract, he got paid, he has that security. The guy
Odell Beckham.
Yeah, he's a competitor, so he wants to compete. And I think that's kind of why you kind of saw him really just sitting out, because he's like, dude, I don't want to risk getting hurt without getting paid and stuff. And now he's been paid. J.K. Dobbins should be healthier. Last year he was like coming off the ACL injury. J.K. Dobbins is extremely explosive. I think you might see the Baltimore Ravens really push for the AFC North this year.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting too because we know how good Deshaun Watson can play in that division with that team, and then he's got probably, I mean, in my mind, one of the top fantasy receivers to draft, and that's Amari Cooper. If you look at how well Amari Cooper played with like almost 2-3 different quarterbacks last year, and I see him really getting in the rhythm with Watson. That could be pretty potent offense that they'll have out there, better than they've had in a very long time. Honestly, I mean, they were in a lot of games last year too, and that was without Deshaun Watson, and they got Nick Chubb. We keep talking about these quarterbacks that have a really nice setup with the run game, decent pass blocking, decent blocking in general, and some offensive weapons in the receiver position. There's a couple of teams out there that might surprise us this year about making the playoffs, for sure. I think Deshaun Watson might be an underrated quarterback to consider drafting pretty early as well. Because he could really light it up. He could potentially light it up out there in Cleveland with the offense they have.
I think one thing that's going to hurt Cleveland is their offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Their left side of the line seems to be very weak from what I've seen, like preseason wise and stuff, and what's going on in camp. And there's been a lot of talks of like potentially bringing in they would be a second year player now, but as we've talked about in the past, like, yeah, your first year in the league, you're kind of a rookie, but like you're kind of a rookie until like year 3 in the league. So they'd be bringing in like a second year person to possibly replace their left tackle, where they've had a lot of issues with. Deshaun Watson is a good quarterback. Like with all the controversy of what he's had going on and all the off-field stuff that surrounded him, and then he's been off the field for so long and has missed so many games. I think now where he was able to return last year, got within the facility of the team. Hopefully he comes in a lot more polished this year, ready to go, gets back to his true form and what he can do. Because when Deshaun Watson was competing at a high level, he was definitely like top 5 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. Especially when he had still had DeAndre Hopkins too. That was a pretty potent attack they were having. And I mean, at the end of the day, you just hope that people can move on from things, and he himself is just going to conduct himself better outside of football. And if he can do that, and he can continue to play up to the level he used to, which he's still very young, and that all that time off has only just saved his body, honestly.
yeah.
He could potentially really redeem himself, both in the field and in the image of his character. There's definitely an opportunity for him to do that.
Do you what do you think of the addition with DeAndre Hopkins to the Tennessee Titans? Do you think that actually like propels them more in the South to kind of be like that leading team again, or do you think it's one of those things where it's like, this is a great addition, but I don't really see this like propelling them forward to a higher standard in that division?
Yeah, I don't know that that they have all the answers to that. With the rookie quarterback that they drafted last year, that didn't work out for them. That played pretty bad for them. That they're probably going to end up cutting. Tannehill is kind of up in the air because he's had his stints where he's playing really good, and then it kind of never really got better. Once he hit his ceiling, he kind of just went down and stayed, below his talent, top talent level that we're seeing him play at.
Yeah.
And then I feel like Jacksonville is going to be pretty good. They really showed up in that playoff series. They played a good game. They had a good playoff run. Um, Honestly, they beat Dallas in that game that we had against them. That I was pretty sure, we're going to be able to go out there and beat them. And at one point, we did have in a position where we should have finished it or beat them, or just like where we were on top of things. And they came storming back and they won the game in overtime. So they're a good football team. Jacksonville's a lot better football team. I think Lawrence has really grown into his role there. I think with a couple of years now on his resume in the NFL, he's a lot smarter in his decision making. And now that he runs that offense as well as he did last year, I think they're going to be the best team in the AFC South. I don't think that Tennessee has all the tools they would need like Jacksonville does to be the top team. But it's going to be interesting because you got the Colts and you got the rookie quarterback, and then you got Houston. But I still don't see Houston really making those strides with Stroud just because of how the rest of the team is. So to me, that's the best team in that division is going to be Jacksonville. I don't think the Titans are going to be able to get over the hump because of DeAndre. And not to say that he doesn't still have some skill, but he's definitely not the same as before he got injured. And remember, didn't Randy Moss like pretty much career end there? Like that was kind of like his wasn't his last stop of retirement, or was it the Patriots? I just remember there was a stint where Randy Moss did go to the Titans one time, and it just was like, nah.
Yeah, he ended his career with the Patriots.
That's right, because that kind of revitalized his career for a year, right? And then they just had that historic run, like 25 touchdown catches, which is insanity.
Yeah, he was insane
with Tom Brady. Yeah, him and Tom Brady. Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, I don't know. We're gonna see what happens. They've kind of been through this before with receivers going to the Titans from other teams, and it doesn't work out how you might hope, But it happens like that sometimes. We'll see. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins can get some of his old spark back, and if he does, it's gonna be pretty dangerous. Because like if you remember how he was playing too when he was first with Kyler Murray in the Cardinals, like when he was healthy on the Cardinals, he was lining it up too. So we'll have to see which DeAndre Hopkins shows up this season, but it's gonna help them. I just don't know if it's gonna be enough to be the best in their division.
I think I definitely see a team that used to be more predominantly run in the past, or like run first, established line of scrimmage, definitely taking a different change of pace with their offense this year, and that's the Bears. And the reason I say that is because their running backs right now are Foreman, Ebner, Herbert, Horner, Johnson. What was his name last year? He was their starter. He's gone, and he was a big like fantasy guy. Tariq Cohen was gone. So it's kind of like their foundation for running the football isn't there right now, but
Hmm.
they definitely have acquired Chase Claypool. They have Isaiah Ford, um, Darnell Mooney, DJ Moore. Like they've
Hmm.
definitely acquired a lot of talent at the wide receiver position to try to stretch the field. So I definitely see that them opening up the field and you know kind of taking a concept from the Ravens in a way of like, hey, we have the ability to run the football still, but like we can actually spread teams out, open up the field now, and we can let our athlete as our quarterback like make plays with his feet. Because that's kind of what you started
Yeah.
to see towards the end of the season last year um, with them. But just know if you do draft those quarterbacks, those guys make plays with their feet quite a bit. High risk, high reward. One shot, and
Yeah.
you're done.
Or just fumble.
Never fumble.
And then there goes, yeah, and then it goes your points. You might even get some negative points in there for that.
A team that I think has. It's going to be interesting to see because of the offense, but
Hmm.
I think one player. Okay, actually, hold on. I know of one player off the top of my head. Um, I think these players are going to absolutely take off this year with the addition of what was brought in for them. Pull it up here real quick. You have Alan Lazard, Malik Taylor, Garrett Wilson. I'm telling you right now, from a
Hmm.
fantasy perspective, Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis are going to absolutely pop off this year with the addition of um, Aaron Rodgers on that team. They have a great running back committee. They have Brees Hall, who was an absolute freaking star last year for fantasy with what he was doing before he got hurt. It's going to be interesting to see how he comes back from that injury. They got Michael Carter. They got Israel Abinkada. So they have solid running backs there, but with Aaron Rodgers and what he can do on the field,
Hmm.
I mean, bro, like Alex Erickson, who used to be for, I believe, the Bengals, pretty solid. Corey Davis has been well established in the league, has shown that he can contribute a lot. But him and Garrett Wilson, what I've been seeing in training camp, bro, they asked him, they said, how are you adjusting to the Jets, or like, how do you like, your wide receiver core? And he made a comment
Hmm.
like, oh, it's great. I just throw it deep to Garrett. like,
Yeah.
like it's just, they've
This is
been
great.
doing really well. So I think if you can get those guys where like some of the bigger name ones are kind of taken,
Yeah.
there's some people you can grab and steal based off who's quarterback now. Um, I think the Jets might win that division, bro. Like if they play to their potential, like I don't see why they couldn't win that division. Because their defense was like their defense had moments last year where they would like shut out teams and
Hmm.
do really well, and then it was like the next week it's like, dude, what the hell happened to this defense? You know?
Yeah. Um, I know that. I know that. I'm guessing that, and this is just my speculation, just because stuff I've read and stuff. I think that if there's anywhere that Zeke might end up on a team, will probably end up being like it's probably going to be New England.
Yeah.
But I could see him maybe like if he doesn't get signed by New England, I could see him maybe sliding into the Jets locker room, possibly.
Well, the Jets were going after Dalvin Cook. I never saw anything on that. Like they Aaron Rodgers. I made a joke with
Hmm.
you, like how he set NFL history for the first time ever in his contract, taking a pay cut so they could open up cap space to
Oh yeah,
bring
that's
in
right.
somebody else and stuff. And he, I mean, that's a pretty big move on his part. He's always been about getting whatever he can out of organizations.
Yeah,
So the fact that he's doing that is definitely says a lot. Let's see roster.
absolutely.
I don't see anything on Dalvin Cook. Has Dalvin Cook been picked up by anybody?
No,
That's surprising to
nah, nobody signed him.
me. You know, a team that I think could like flop, even though they kind of flopped last year.
Mm-hmm.
They have such a good roster,
Who's
and
that?
you have the New Orleans Saints. Like they've acquired Derek Carr.
Mm.
Okay, they have Jameis Winston still, but dude, you have Alvin Kamara, who's going to be suspended for what 4 games? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
First,
Yeah,
first 4
games.
games. You have Jamal Williams, who came from the Detroit Lions. Jamal Williams has shown when he was at Green Bay, at the Lions, he can contribute
Yeah,
to a roster. But then
absolutely.
you have Lynn Bowden, who's a freaking track star at Kentucky. He could stretch the field like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Keith Kirkwood. You have Chris Olave, Traquan Smith, and Michael Thomas, bro. And then even James Washington. They have so much freaking speed and the ability to like create so much havoc on a secondary and their wide receivers. And then they re-signed Jimmy Graham as tight end, and you have Taysom Hill. Like, and they have Jesse James at tight end. What the hell, bro? This roster is stacked.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Michael Thomas finally actually plays football for a whole season because he's been getting paid there by New Orleans since
He's been
Drew
hurt though
Brees
too.
retired.
You know,
Yeah, since Drew Brees retired, but it's just like how long do you keep someone on your team and they can't ever play? I'm just saying, since Drew Brees is retired, I know it sucks he got hurt, but he hasn't been able to contribute or do anything, and it's kind of like I was telling my friend, man, if Michael Thomas can't go for y'all, and if he gets hurt again or something, I think it might be time to get to let him go because the dude's just sitting there collecting a check and he's taking up a spot that you could have somebody be productive.
let's see if he's
And
been on the
but they
injury
definitely
list.
are lucky to have guys like Olave step up and be in there, and some speedsters that they have, and guy like Tyson Hill that you can kind of move around on that offense and may have him play different positions.
Like their offense is
They're very fortunate.
kind of crazy stacked, man. Like wide receivers and stuff, they're crazy stacked.
It looks good on paper. It probably plays great on Madden, but I think we're gonna find out, what it's really about coming the regular season. But hey, well, it's not gonna be long, right? We only got a couple more weeks, so
Yeah.
they're gonna get their first shot. Who are they even playing first? Let's see. It's probably a
Uh,
divisional game, like the Falcons or something.
let's see schedule. They have the Kansas City Chiefs preseason on
Oh
Sunday.
man.
That's
Oh,
just
preseason.
preseason.
Oh, preseason. Oh,
Tennessee
okay.
playing Tennessee Titans September 10th.
Oh, first game. Nice. I'm gonna be on the ship that day. Yeah. All right. Nice. Nice.
It looks like their first divisional game is going to be Carolina the next week.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna be sure to get my lineup done early because I don't want any reason why I couldn't get my my lineup. I'm sure I'll be able to get though, to get my lineup done.
all right, let's do this. Okay, time to drop the hammer, baby. AFC East. Who's winning that division?
NFC East. Let's see. Let me pull that up.
So you got Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets.
Man, that's a tough one. I feel like this year Miami will be able to protect and keep Tua healthy. I think that Jalen Waddle's going to be okay. I think he just looked worse than it was. I think he'll be ready to go come week 1. And you still got Tyreek Hill there. Jalen Ramsey is a blow, but I think that that's something they can overcome in the coming weeks and the matchups they're going to have. I don't know. I think that that Miami is going to be able to squeeze this one out this year and come out on top. When their offense was clicking and Tua was healthy, it was pretty crazy just how good that team looked on offense. And all they can get a couple of stops on defense, and they're going to win a lot of games. Because they were able to do that a bit last year, but they did have some unfortunate setbacks at quarterback, right? But I think this might be able to be the year they can do it in the AFC East.
Okay. AFC West. Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Broncos.
Yeah, I don't see the Chiefs not being number 1 again. I mean, they have everything going for them. They're going to come back with the same roster, same mentality. They're going to be doing everything they needed to do the last few years to get where they want to be, and that's the Super Bowl again.
I think
You
they've
still got
gotten better.
Kelsey.
They've gotten
I
better
mean,
on defense too.
yeah, and they've also just become more cohesive unit, because like I said, they have only added to the team. They haven't really had to let go or had anyone walk like that. And I think everybody into that locker room is so sold in the culture that I don't see any of the coaches going anywhere anytime soon as long as they have this going, because they're gonna want to win as many rings as they can to kind of keep building into a dynasty, because it's even though it'd be tough to go to another Super Bowl winner back to back, right? It's something that if there was a team that could do it, I mean the Chiefs don't have any reasons why they can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Chiefs all the way for that one.
All right, let's jump down to AFC South. So you got
Mhm.
Texans, Colts, Jaguars, Titans.
AFC South. Yeah, I'd go Jacksonville. I think they're gonna play better than did last year, because they kind of hit like a down point, but then when they really started getting things together and putting the game together, Trevor Lawrence really stepped his game up, and I think he'll continue to do that. So I see Jacksonville coming up on top with just based on their experience and how much talent they have on offense.
I'm gonna go Jacksonville as well, but it would not surprise me if
Mhm.
the Titans snuck in there, ended up getting it,
Maybe.
because like I don't know, like what? Who knows? Like
I think they should.
if Tannehill plays to his capability with what
Yeah.
they got, and their defense can perform, they should be able to win quite a few games in that division.
Yeah.
I do think the Colts have a lot of weapons as far as like their roster goes. I just don't know who's going to play for them. Like you have Gardner Minshew and Sam Ellinger, who could step up at like quarterback for him this year, and then let Anthony Richardson like get his feet wet. But you got Kenyon Drake, a running back. Zach Moss at running back, Jonathan Taylor at running back. Like Jonathan Taylor's one of the best running backs last year. He was the best running back last year.
Yeah.
But then you got Isaiah McKenzie, Rashad Perryman, Michael Pittman Jr.
Yep.
I think is Paris Campbell still on the team? No, it looks like Paris Campbell's been let go. So they definitely have weapons and stuff. Like,
so it looks like the first preseason game for the Titans, Will Levis, I think that's his name, right? Will Levis. Will Levis and Malik Willis are going to play a lot, according to the coach. So there's going to be a big deciding factor there. But what do you think is more likely? That the Colts, I think his last name is Richardson, right? The quarterback that they drafted?
Yeah.
Richardson's his last name. Do you think it's more likely that Richardson takes that Colts team and really makes a tear into the division, or do you feel like it's more likely that if they were to start, let's say they try to start Tannehill, which they might end up just doing just to start him because he's a veteran, he doesn't play so well, and say, okay, we're gonna throw the next guy in, and that guy is Will Levis, what do you think it's more likely that he would be able to take over for the Titans and win that division, or is it more likely for the Colts and Richardson to do that? What do you think about that?
I'm gonna say this. Okay. Anthony Richardson, I saw 1 year of college football. The guy has crazy athletic potential. He has a stupid arm, bro. Like he has an absolute cannon for an arm.
I saw something about that. One of the guys was saying, like, yeah, he can just launch it 80 yards like it's nothing.
It's
just...
insane the strength in his arm.
Yeah.
But
That's...
he makes very poor decisions. He like throughout the season, the first couple of games and stuff, they beat Utah. And then it was like once teams figured out how to play him, it was like we just have to move our coverages around. He doesn't know how to read coverages. He doesn't know how to do this stuff. And then they just contain him. So like it was kind of a Cam Newton scenario, like Cam Newton 2.0 of let's disguise our coverages, let's get some pressure on them, and bring them from different angles.
More like a raw talent kind of guy.
He's
like
very raw.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like knowing what Will Levis did at Kentucky. His junior year, Kentucky had an opportunity to really make some noise. They had a great year, and they ended up losing to Georgia, finished second in the division. He had a great offensive line around him. He had really good wide receivers around him. His senior year, the offensive line was atrocious. They sucked. So a lot of people were like, oh, I guess he was a fluke. You know, he's not that good. I think he actually had a pretty good senior year for what he had in front of him as far as an offensive line, because that dude got beat up. One
Yeah.
thing that I have heard though,
Mhm.
and I heard this like I think we talked about it during the draft, was there were several people who projected him to go to the Colts. He was supposed to go like
Really?
number 4 or something, and then all of a sudden he kept falling down that draft board, falling down the draft board. Didn't get
Mhm.
drafted in day one. Then he just keeps falling, and Tennessee picks him up in the second round, second or third
Yeah.
round. And it was like the talk of the draft, like, holy crap, what's going on with this kid and his stock?
Mhm.
And I heard from multiple sources that said he had meetings with the Colts. He had meetings with I think it was Houston. I think he had meetings with Panthers, and he had
Mhm.
meetings with somebody in the NFC, and they all said like, "Dude, you are extremely ignorant, or not ignorant, arrogant, and you need to
Um.
like fix your attitude, or you will not do well in the NFL." Like he
Oh shit.
thought he was the shit, and I heard that even in college that he kind of has this like persona about him that
Oh.
he thinks he's all that he's like fit to already do this and everything. Kind of a Baker Mayfield mentality. Like the guy's got the mechanics, but his ego gets in the way.
He thinks he's what's that guy's name? What's the quarterback's name from the replacements?
Um,
So he thinks he's Joe Falcon or something like
yeah,
that. I forgot his
but it's like,
name.
but that's the
Yeah,
thing
I know
is
what you
like,
mean. I know what you mean.
but I could see with what the Titans have around them,
Uh huh.
he is a smart guy. He does
Yeah.
have like, I think out of the draft, I think he is probably the most ready quarterback as far as build, his ability to throw and read coverages
Mhm.
and stuff. It's just attitude. So like I think if the Titans ended up needing him to step up, he could manage the game and like potentially have a better chance to propel them to win the division over than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Richardson, it would just turn into like kind of like a Justin Fields his first year, like highlight reel, like makes a lot of crazy plays,
Yeah.
but they're not winning games, you know? Like he'd be fun to watch, but it's like that's great, but you're not winning games. So
Yeah. He thinks
um
he's James Falco. That's the
AFC,
guy's name.
AFC North. Okay, this is the one I wanted to say for
AFC
last.
North. Okay.
You got the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers.
Ooh.
This is a tough one.
It is. It is because it's just there's so many factors that play into this, and it's like if a perfect storm would be that like Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow are playing up to like their potential. This could be like the one loaded like division where all the games are crucial and all the games are exciting to watch. I mean, obviously, Pittsburgh is kind of there lingering with seeing how Kenny Pickett kind of plays out. I mean, he did have a rough first year, but mind you, he didn't start off playing
Yeah.
like throughout the whole season. He
I think he'll
didn't.
do better this year. I think
Yeah,
he'll
he'll
do better.
definitely do better this year. So it's like, I mean, as far as the quarterback talent, I mean, you look in that roster. Of course, you got Lamar Jackson at the top. Then you got Joe Burrow, then Deshaun, and then Kenny Pickett. Right? In my opinion, that's the order that I have them in that division.
Yeah.
But they could potentially play up to being where all four teams even play at the top ability, and they did, and make it a really exciting division to keep an eye on and watch the games.
I'm just gonna say this, okay?
Uh-huh.
I think any one of those teams can win that division.
Oh yeah.
I think what's gonna come down to who does win the division is just health of the teams. Like
Yeah.
every team that's in there, they have. I mean, well, actually, like except for the Steelers, like I don't think the Steelers are there yet with offense. Because like running back, they don't really have like I mean they have Najee Harris, but besides him, they don't really have anything there. And then I don't know, wide receiver, they have Miles Boykin, but they don't like it's kind of it, you know. They don't really have like a ton of, or they got George Pickens. He's pretty solid. Allen Robinson, they must have acquired Allen Robinson this year. I mean, they got some. I think Pat Firemarth. I think that's how you say his name. The guy from Penn State, tight end. I think he'll have a good year for them this year. He had a pretty good year last year.
Mm-hmm.
But Dude, the thing with the Steelers is their defense, man. Like when their defense
Oh,
is
yeah,
healthy, they can create so much chaos for people. But when they lose like Hayward or they lose Watt, it's like
yeah.
after that their defense is no threat.
They kind of just caves in, right? Like if it kind of
Yeah.
falls apart without them. Yeah.
So I think it's hard for me to pick. I'm going to go the Ravens to win the division. I think Lamar is going to be outstanding this year because he's
That's
getting
fair.
what he's got. But it honestly, man, just I mean, dude, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., Nelson Aguilar. Okay,
It
you got Justin Hill, Melvin Gordon. They've acquired Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. You got Lamar Jackson. Like this team is built to run and then sling it on you, dude. And then what's
it would
his
be
face?
cool. Hmm.
Mark Andrews. He's like top 3 tight end
Oh
in the
yeah,
league.
he's
You
yeah
know,
he's one of the best.
like that. They're it's just kind of crazy, like what they have. But the question is what
Lamar
can
Jackson stay healthy.
that? But like, what can their defense bring to the table? You know.
Yeah.
So
It would be fun to be able to watch an AFC Championship game that has the Chiefs and the Ravens,
that would be fun.
especially if they're both healthy,
Yeah.
and like fully capable for their teams.
So
That would be a fun game to watch.
I think Baltimore might win that one this year if they stay healthy. But honestly, dude, like,
I wonder if they even play each other this year. I don't think they do, but
let's see.
I haven't seen their schedules, so
Let me look real quick. Schedule. You're talking about Baltimore facing the Chiefs?
yeah,
No, they did not play the Chiefs this year.
what a shame, right? But hey, like I said, they were to meet up with something like the AFC Championship game. That wouldn't be shocking, and that would actually be pretty epic.
But dude, the Browns too. Like the Browns could easily like do some damage this year with what they got on offense, and their defense is pretty solid.
Yeah, and they still got Miles Garrett, that freaking monster, just
He's-
waiting on the other end over there.
Bro,
The dude's just
he's not
all over
normal.
the place.
Yeah, he's not a normal human being.
Yeah.
All right, NFC. What about the West? I personally think the West. I think the Niners are taking it again. They
Think so?
have way too much weapons, man. I think if Trey Lance can do what he's supposed to do,
Yeah.
you know, like he adds a whole different dynamic to that team. But Brock Purdy came in and just took over. And if Brock Purdy, I actually heard something crazy last night on NFL Network, and it blew my
What's that?
freaking mind. I almost had to go mop the floor because my brain was all over the floor after hearing this. They said that
Mhm.
Kyle Shanahan actually told people that the plan last year was if they would have won the NFC Championship game,
Mhm.
got to the Super Bowl, they were calling Philip Rivers to come in and
What?
sign him to play in the Super Bowl because Brock Purdy got hurt.
Yeah, he did. I mean,
So
they were
they're
desperate.
like-
They needed.
Yeah, so that was like I think they said it something like at like halftime, like, hey, if we win this game, like we are calling Philip Rivers, like we'll get his ass in here. And so, dude, but you got to think of it. He's a veteran guy. He would already know the system. He knows how to read and all that stuff. Like, you kidding me?
I mean, if you were to, if that in the imaginary scenario where that did happen and they win, that would probably be like the one of the greatest stories ever of how some
Yeah.
dude just came off his couch one day from retirement and won the Super Bowl the next day or the next 2 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
next 2 weeks I'm playing in the Super
It's
Bowl
like Kurt Warner.
and I won.
Kurt Warner was over there bagging groceries and stuff.
In a shorter
Yeah.
time frame, in a shorter period. He's like, yeah, can you come play the Super Bowl in 2 weeks? Thanks. All right.
I mean, at that point though, with where they were at and the capability,
Yeah, they didn't have a choice.
They had to do it.
You had to call
Um,
somebody.
But dude, with their defense that they have, you know, and what they got over there on that side of the ball, as far as their defensive line, their linebackers, they have good secondary, and then what they got on offense, man, like,
Hmm.
I mean, they're just loaded, bro. Like if they play to their potential, they should win that division. I personally think the only team that could really give them a threat, if their defense can step up, is the Seahawks. The Seahawks are the closest thing. I think the Seahawks will do a lot with their offense this year if they stay healthy. Because last year they had trouble at running back staying healthy
Yeah.
and stuff. But Gino showed he can play. He can get it done.
Yeah.
So I think that's their biggest threat. But I think the 49ers take that division personally.
Yeah, and then I mean, who knows how it's gonna be with the Cardinals with Kyler Murray getting hurt, and the same year he got that big contract, and we were kind of talking about how no, I mean, we would never try to like say that, like we would never want to predict and be accurate about someone getting hurt, but we kind of did talk about the foreshadowing of
Yeah.
sometimes these guys, they get a contract like this, and it's like, oh yeah, life's great, damn, and then something happens unfortunate like that, and they get hurt. It's like, well, there goes all your money for that year, and it just sucks. It sucks for them because they get hurt. It sucks
Yeah.
for the team because you don't get to make good on that. What the whole point of paying them that money was, you don't get the productivity out of it. It's bad for the fan. It's just bad for everyone all around. So it sucks when that happens, but we kind of pray that might happen. So it's gonna be tough. Like I don't know, man. I kind of think about like when people were talking about like like well Dak came back off a serious injury, not from last year's, but like when he broke his ankle. Michael Gallup came back from last year, was his first year back from that serious knee
Mhm.
surgery that he had to do. And sometimes it takes these guys. I mean, as resilient and as tough and as fit as they are, it takes these guys more than a year to fully truly heal from having a serious injury like that. And a one like Kyler Murray has, like, yeah, he might be out there look like he's ready to go, and I'm sure he'll play and hopefully he stays healthy, but that doesn't mean he's not going to have like a hindering pain or some kind of discomfort or swelling or all of the above. Like these guys get
Well, and
hurt and
mentally
serious
too.
injuries, yeah, and mentally
Yeah.
too, yeah. So it's going to be hard to say. It's going to be hard to say how that affects them. And then with Joe Burrow, the calf injury, that reminds me a lot like when Dak got hurt. It was at the end of a Patriots game in overtime. He hurt his calf. He was out for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it kind of seemed like when he came back, even after the 4 weeks, he was still kind of ginger on that calf, and it's a similar situation where it sucks because it's not the calf where he's stepping forward; it's the calf that he's pivoting off of, and he's he's supposed to put it down in the ground and twist and throw the ball.
Yeah.
That's the foot that he drives with, so that makes it even more difficult. And I don't know if anyone's ever pulled a calf muscle, but it's
It
horrible, and
sucks.
you'll barely be able to crawl, much less walk
Yeah.
on a painful calf. So that's a tough injury. So yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see because there's a lot of factors that are gonna depend on who's gonna play up to their potential, who's gonna stay healthy, who's not. Um, but that's the game in fantasy football. That's what I say with fantasy football. I think it's always safe to wait at least till like the weekend before week 1 so that you can draft guys that are healthy. Because
Oh
sometimes,
yeah.
man, like hate to say it, but sometimes you draft someone early and it could be a top player and non-football contact injury happens in the regular season. Look at Jalen Ramsey. He's like out like 8 weeks or something crazy. So yeah.
Um, I think this is the most wide open division, personally.
Mhm.
The NFC North with Aaron Rodgers like departing,
Yeah.
and like you got some big factors for the Vikings departing as well for like Dalvin Cook, Adam
Mhm.
Thielen, and all that. I feel like this division is literally like a coin flip.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people's picks
Mhm.
have kind of favored the Detroit Lions
I was gonna get to that. I was gonna,
to
I
win
can't
that
believe we're
division.
talking about it. Yeah, I can't believe we're talking about this. But yeah, the Detroit Lions. I mean, Dan Campbell's doing a great job over there with the coaching staff. They've got some nice pieces there together to put up some nice win streaks last year and some nice games together and play tough. So you never know, man. They could really sneak in there and take advantage of kind of the shifting of power in that division. Dalvin Cook is gone. Um, there's just all kinds of stuff happening in the league. They don't have to worry about Aaron Rodgers anymore, which historically has always just found ways to just beat them. Uh, so yeah, man, I could see the Lions maybe for the first time in man, I think
A long time.
since we were like kids, the first
Yeah,
time in a long time, actually be playoff bound or at least winning the division.
yeah. Um, I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say that, but they could. They have a very strong possibility to win that division, especially with what they've required in the offseason. David Montgomery left the Bears and went there. They picked him up. They have Justin Jackson, who's
Mm,
solid. Um, we got Benny Snell. Benny Snell's a solid running back. He's just, you know,
man, and you
big
know what?
bodied.
Jared Goff. Actually, I looked at it, and Jared Goff is actually probably another sleeper at quarterback for you to consider because if he can play like he did last year, which was really solid, that's probably about as good as the season that he had when they got to the Super Bowl, they lost and they couldn't score any points in that game. But the what led up to that was a pretty good season, and he threw for 4,400 yards. He has 29 touchdowns and 7 interceptions thrown. And I know at least a good couple of those were touchdowns that he didn't throw were contributed to the great run game they had with Williams there at the time. So, and they got a pretty good running back group there on the Lions. But he done pretty well last year, and if he can continue to play that way, that just kind of adds fuel to the fire of the Lions having the potential to win that division. You know.
Jared Goff, like ever since he's come into the league, his ceiling is very high. Like he has a lot of potential, but he has been
Yeah.
probably one of the most consistent boom or bust quarterbacks in the league. Like the guy will either
Yeah.
pop off for a game, then it's like he'll do that for one or two, and then that one game where you really need him,
And they don't show up.
it's where he doesn't show up, and he's got like 3
Yeah.
picks, getting sacked left and right. Like,
Disaster.
I think the Lions could win that, man. Like, I think they could. It wouldn't surprise me if the Vikings won that division, just because I feel like they have such a solid foundation with the players they got. And they brought back, they signed again, or no, I'm thinking of Bobby Wagner. He went back to the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But what I will say about the Vikings, I do not see the Vikings going back to have the season they did last year, where they won like 13 games and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah,
There was
yeah.
there was like 11 of the 13 games where they won by like 1 score or less. And I remember we talked about them in our playoff picks, and I said, bro, it would not surprise me if the Giants beat them, because I feel like the Vikings have just like escaped defeat all season long and not actually gone out and won games. Like they've like survived games. And sure enough, first round they got beat by the Giants.
Yeah.
And stuff. So
And that was a game that I was that was pretty disappointing for the Vikings too, because it's like, dude, y'all have like the best receiver in football right now, Justin Jefferson.
and you
Like,
got nothing.
how is and yeah, and how you guys are just getting snuffed out like this. So yeah,
I saw
I see what you mean.
I saw an interesting stat line for him, because Justin Jefferson's young. Like he's a young guy.
Yeah.
He broke 2 franchise records. One was receptions in a season. I think they said he had like 124 or 125.
So more than Randy Moss.
So he broke Chris Carter's single season reception record. And then he broke Randy Moss's single season receiving yards record with like he had like 1,800 yards something last year, like almost 2,000 yards. So
that's
like
nuts.
So 2 Hall of Famers that used to play together, he broke both their records and stuff.
Oh, he sure as hell did. He had 1,809 freaking years.
Yeah, he went off last year.
Whoa. Yeah, dude. Everything for him. What was his average yards per catch? Because it's probably something crazy.
Probably
He
20s.
caught 60. He caught like 6 passes more than 40 yards long. 28 passes more than 20 yards
I was
long.
gonna say, yeah.
And just in general, from his catches, like 64 long long receptions, which is pretty crazy. That's at 184 targets, 613. That's crazy.
All right. NFC South. Who do you got? Bucks, Saints, Panthers, Falcons. Man, this is kind of like an open division too. I'm gonna go Bucks. I'm gonna go Bucks here. I don't know why.
I mean, Mike Evans will definitely the receivers he got on there will definitely be a big boon for Mayfield. That's for sure. If he can keep things under control and
they still
not
got
make
Godwin,
dumb decisions
they got
with the
Gage,
football.
They got Evans. They
Yep.
got Moore. Tight end wise, they're kind of like falling off. Their offensive line just struggled so much last year, man.
Yeah, I know, and that.
What are their running backs? Ronnie Brown, Chase Edmonds, Patrick Laird, Sean Tucker, Keyshawn Vaughn, Rashad White. That White had a good year last year.
Yeah.
Tay Barber. Man, their running backs aren't. Literally, what happened to Leonard Fournette? I guess they got rid of him.
Yeah, he's not there anymore. I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, you know what? I think maybe Carolina puts it together this year for them. I think they're gonna have they got Bryce Young. That's a really solid piece to have a quarterback, someone that could be a leader. They got Sanders from the Eagles. He was a really good
True.
horse to ride on for the running game all season for the Eagles. He's over 1,000 yard rusher for them, the first one for a long time, since a long time.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a big boon for them to go. We'll talk about. They got Adam Thielen. They got a couple of playmaker tight ends.
It's not a
And I
bad
think
pick.
they just kind of sharpen up on defense. Compared to what they're competing against, I think that if they can just sharpen up on defense and really get that offense gelling together with the weapons and the guys that they have, I could see them being good enough to win that division, the NFC South. Because you look at the Atlanta Falcons, yeah, and then they got the Bijan running back. They got Mariota was also kind of one of those quarterbacks that you're talking about. One game they're really on, another game they're not. It's kind of a coin toss. You don't know which version of that quarterback or game you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
For the Falcons. New Orleans, it's also kind of up in the air because we don't know if Derek Carr's um, his low points or what is was I guess having his game trend negatively, if it's going to continue, or being a new system with these players is going to help out. So that's a coin toss too because we don't know how that's going to go. And then same thing with Tampa. So yeah, I mean the whole thing's a coin toss for all these teams, but I think Carolina with what they have and having Bryce Young, I think they have a really good shot at winning it.
I'm going Carolina. I'm switching my pick. I'm going Carolina because they got 5 Ohio State guys on that roster. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean, they did well in the draft, and they making some good pickups. I mean, they did definitely help put themselves in a better position to have a better team around Bryce Young for sure.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the final division, the NFC East. You got the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles, and then Washington Commanders. This is kind of tough because there's so much up in the air with the Giants, depending on Saquon Barkley and his situation.
I don't think he's going to be there much longer, in my opinion.
He does not he is that offense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He opens up the pass game with how much of a threat he brings to running the football and catching the ball out of the backfield. That people have to stack the box and account for that.
Absolutely.
And Daniel Jones has the ability to run, which is pretty much what he did a lot of last year. So, if Saquon Barkley does not play, and he actually sits out, I think the Giants fall off terribly. I don't even think they're a contender. But if he plays, they made the playoffs last year. I don't know.
I mean, there's a good number of games that they only won because Saquon Barkley was taking over the game or late or making it possible, making plays possible for them to set up a field goal or just win the game and a walk-off. I think there's a pitch touchdown that he got. That was pretty much a walk-off touchdown. That was the game. Saquon Barkley would be a huge loss for them. And especially if he's staying healthy. He was so healthy last year. And he showed how much of an impact he can make on offense, even when Daniel Jones isn't playing consistently. Saquon seems to be. So yeah, I guess we're gonna see how it shakes out, man. I honestly don't think that unless he gets a restructured contract within the first few months, I don't think. I mean, if he even plays, because I think he's been showing up to practice. I haven't seen anything about him sitting out, but yeah, he's definitely not happy in a standstill too. But I'm not gonna say too much because we got our own problems too in Dallas with having to pay someone that wants to get paid and going through that. So it sucks, it's business, it's part of the game.
So you got Barkley, Matt Breida, who's in my opinion, a great backup running back. That guy, he can run between the tackles and he can catch ball out of the backfield.
Where did Breida play for? Or where did he play before?
Matt Breida. He was part of the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, that's right. He was in the 49ers. I remember his name
James
from
Robinson, who came from the Jaguars. He's freaking solid. Then wide receivers, you got Cole Beasley, Paris Campbell, that's where he went from Indianapolis Colts, Jamison Crowder, Isaiah Hodgins, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. They have a pretty solid wide receiver group, and then they have acquired Darren Waller.
Oh yeah, I did get Darren Waller. That's right.
Solid tight end. So,
yeah, from Las Vegas. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I still think the offense runs through Saquon Barkley,
And,
but
yeah, and it's also hopefully for them their offensive line continues to perform because remember we used to talk about how terrible they were.
yeah,
And they actually play better. Even though I don't know I felt like when the Giants played the Eagles in that playoff game. It was just weird. It was like you weren't watching the 2023 Giants. You were watching
no,
like 2022, 2021 Giants. Like what the hell is going on? Like from the silly mistakes to what wasn't it like the stupidest bonehead first drive play you can call, and then they call
yeah.
like to go for it on fourth down, and then it was like a fourth and long, and they did like a run or something, and you're just like they're like, what
They
the
try to do
are you
like a
doing?
fake punt run,
Yeah,
and it's just
and then
like
after that, it was just
whatever.
like it was just cringe the rest of the way.
Yeah, it was so
And I was
bad.
mad because I wanted the Eagles to lose because I'd rather see the Eagles lose. And I was just like, "What are you doing? Y'all are doing this just to spite us." But yeah, that's how bad it was. It was
So,
crazy.
so what's going on with Dallas? You said you got somebody who wants like more money and stuff. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, Zach Martin wants to be, even though he is one of the highest paid guards, he wants more money. So he's kind of been holding out in training camp. I
Mm,
don't know. There's that. Jerry Jones is basically saying that he's already
mm.
well compensated, but we have to consider that there's other guys that we have to pay, which is true. We do have people coming up that they have to get paid, like Micah Parsons, which is true. And it's not like Zach Martin hasn't been taken care of, and he's still on contract. That's the thing. He's still got 2 years on his contract. It's not like it's the end of his contract or something, and they're just franchise tagging him. It's more of I want more money, even though I've already agreed to these 2 years when he's already agreed to this contract. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like one side is like okay, it's a standstill, but then apparently he sent a message to the guys and was just like I'll be there soon or whatever. Just take charge or to kind of just go out there and do a good job or whatever. Kind of one of those cryptic messages. It doesn't really tell you like one way or the other if he meant that he's gonna. I don't know. It's weird. That's kind of like what's going on around with that. I mean, I hope he does get it together. They do get it together and they bring come to an agreement. But I don't think they're gonna come to an agreement anytime soon, just based on what I've been seeing in articles and kind of course they keep asking Jerry about it and his position. His answer hasn't really changed his position on the matter. So I don't know, man. I hope they get it squared away because Zach Martin has been like a solid rock in our offensive line for years. He's hardly missed any games or ever got hurt. He's a multiple time Pro Bowler, year in and year out. He's one of the best in the game that goes on that field and plays that position. So yeah, I really hope that we can get it worked out with him and he stays on the team and plays and he's actually in the game.
Who is taking over offense coordinator for y'all?
Oh, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy. Honestly, I think this is his last season. Like this is his last shot. Like if
Wait,
this season doesn't
so
go well,
who they bring in though for Kellen Moore to replace Kellen Moore? I know Mike
I'm not.
McCarthy's like calling the plays and stuff.
That's a good question. I'm not even sure. I should know that, but I'm not even sure because after I read Kellen Moore's gone, Mike McCarthy's calling plays now. That's just like, yes. Let's see here.
So, because Kellen Moore, he went to the Chargers.
Yeah, he's their offensive coordinator.
Is he their offense coordinator or head coach?
Oh yeah, that's right. They hired Ryan Schottenheimer. That's right.
Okay, that's not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's right. They did hire him. I can't believe I forgot that. That's right.
what is the one thing that you feel like holds Dallas back this season?
That holds them back.
Holds them back. Like what is the one player that holds them back?
Um, uh, to put it on one player, pretty tough. But I think at the end of the day, Dak is gonna have to own up to the position he's in, and that he's. I mean, what this is going into his 8th season now, with Dallas. He's getting paid a lot of money, and I understand. He's had injuries, had to go through some tough things, and go through a lot, like in his personal life, to still be able to do what he's doing today, which is amazing. But I think he has to really take charge this year more than he ever has before. I think he needs to be given the permission that if he thinks that he needs to change something in the line to do it, to really put the ball in his hands. If he thinks that there's a better play to run based on what he's reading, to do that, and not just run the play just because it was called and because that's what like when Kellen Moore will call plays sometimes, it makes you think. Couldn't he be just audible out of that crap? and you know what I mean, and ran something better, I think he should be able to do that. And I think that's what's going to really depend on if he has that kind of control to be able to make decisions and play that. I think he needs to be more decisive, and maybe not hesitant, as he was last year. I think that it's going to be crucial that um, obviously you don't want to throw interceptions like he was at the second half of the season. But I think last year too, when he came back, he was being really indecisive about what he wanted to do. And granted, there was quite a couple interceptions. People won't admit it that came off receivers' hands. He's hitting right on numbers, getting tipped up in the air, and that's fine. I'll give that to him. Let's say like 5 of those were tipped balls. There was still a lot of interceptions thrown because for every like tipped pass interception, there was like an interception that was on him, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be up to Dak to not be the guy that holds them back in that sense. And um, honestly, you know what? I can't even just say that. It was just that I felt like at the end of the year, for some strange reason, right? We're already kind of like, with Dak like throwing the interceptions. Defense is playing great, and then all of a sudden, when Dak is playing good, our kicker just
Sucks.
like it's Space Jam. Someone come and stole his skill and ran off with it. Like, what the hell is going on? I don't think anyone's ever seen anything like that. The dude suddenly made it seem like he never kicked a goddamn football in his life.
Yeah.
Like, if he's never done this. Like, if you pulled a kid out of high school and said, "Here, you're gonna come kick for the Cowboys," and they just whiff it, and it got worse and then worse. And I kind of felt like there was things we had to do, like in that 49ers game, because and go for it and run some plays and Dak forced some things because of the simple fact that we couldn't even trust our kicker anymore because we couldn't go and kick a 45-yard field goal, 40-yard field goal, a 50-yard field goal. When you take away the kicking, that's a huge hindrance. And I'm kind of worried about that right now too because we don't have like an official, okay, this is our kicker going forward on the roster. I think we cut the rookie we signed. I want to say, you know what, that might be a big thing that holds us back is special teams. It's crazy to think about it. You don't talk about this enough. Nobody really does, but special teams can be a big help or even a fatal flaw in your game plan on Sunday, and that includes kicking field goals. So I'm worried about that too. That's something that could really hurt us like it did in the playoffs, not being able to kick a simple field goal, or let's just say in general being consistent enough to kick fields, or even extra points. You know, we were missing extra points, dude. It was crazy.
I mean, you can look at it this way. At least you didn't have a kicker who didn't miss a single kick all year until it came down to the game winner and the semifinal championship, and then they kicked it 80 yards to the left, like nowhere within the stadium. So, like, at least that didn't happen to you. So,
yeah,
I was walking away and I was just like, "Oh, bro, we got this in the bag. Our boys got it." And then all of a sudden, I just see the ball go. Shoot.
Man, I can't imagine.
I was just like, "What the hell, bro? This is how we lose this game." But
I hate to say it, man, but I think that if it's gonna be something that holds us back, it might be special teams again. I hope not.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think I'm very interested to see how the offense is going to go because there was times last year where I would even message you and like I know you wouldn't respond until like after the game and all that because when I watch like a Cowboys game,
yeah,
little Jacob's watching it as a fan. I'm watching it as like an ex-player, ex-coach. Like I'm like breaking stuff down because I have no like investment in this. I'm not a fan of the team. I'm not like a diehard fan of players or anything like that. Like I just enjoy watching them. So like I critique stuff, and there was a lot of times last year where I felt like, and I've said this last year, said it the year before with Kellen Moore, you guys would build momentum and you'd be generating this momentum down the field. Your offense would be clicking, things are going
running,
well, and then all of a sudden it's just like, hey, this is the perfect time since we've just thrown the ball twice, we've ran the ball twice, we're gashing this team. This is the perfect time to run a double reverse pass across the field and throw a pick or fumble or something. Let's call it. And I'm just like,
why?
Like that's the kind of stuff to me where, and I can speak to this as a player. Okay, there was a couple times in college where our coach would call something, and it'd be like 3rd and 1, Okay, for example, I don't know
Mhm.
what the hell was in our coach's mind. I think his dip game, he had like CBD in it or something and got like high as shit halfway through the game. Because
Yeah.
we'd be like 3rd and 1, and we'd be like running the ball on these teams, like just kicking the shit out of them, running the ball. And then all of a sudden, he just get in his head like 3rd and 1. Here, let's call a running back screen where our running back would run up to the line, act like he's pass protecting, and then our quarterback drops back, turns around, and you just dump it to him real quick. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is the dumbest play call because everybody is stacking the box. So we're outnumbered in the box. You have
Mhm.
2 people that can account for a running back, and the guy that's supposed to catch the ball and take off is standing at the line of scrimmage in the middle of everybody. And there, it got to a point where like he'd call these plays, and we're like, no, bro, run it power right, like power left.
Uh,
Like here, let's shift over, run eagle, and like I would go over and play tackle backside. We move our tackle over to like a heavy set, and we just run the ball. Dude, he would lose his mind because we like changed the play on him. But then we get a first
yeah.
down, and he'd get over it. And it's like, to me, it was like from a player. Sometimes when you hear what a call is, you have a sense of the game. You're out there. You know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then when a play comes in, sometimes it's like, dude, why the hell are we calling this right now? Like, what the hell are they thinking? And I feel like I don't want to say Dak felt that way, but there was a lot of times when I was sitting there watching the flow of the game, and I'm just like, why would you call that in this situation when like your
I don't know,
quarterback's doing
dude.
this really well or your run game's doing this really well? Like, it was just kind of like you all stopped your own momentum, and then sometimes Dak had poor performances. He threw the ball pretty poorly, threw interceptions. But then there's other times where it was like, dude, the play calling decision, you're putting your player in that situation to where that's not an ideal set. Like,
Mhm.
like I'm not an NFL coach, but I can sit there and walk out and like see how they're lined up, and I'm like, dude, why are you lining up to this? Like, what are you all running? And then I see the play, and I'm like, why are you thinking to call something like this at that time? So I like I
Yeah.
don't. I'm really interested. What I'm getting at is I'm really interested to see the new dynamic of the offense and how plays are going to be called in situational moments. So like 3rd and shorts, like key moments where it's like, how is the flow of the offense doing? Are you going to make some like drastic play call that just completely like changes the momentum of what you're doing? Or are
Yeah.
you actually going to like continue to stick with like a structured game plan and then like
Yeah.
modify that within it, instead
I
of
don't know. It really challenged it really challenged me not to just be like really hot about it and then to be like okay, like trying to find some kind of logical common sense explanation in my mind why that would have thought that would have been a good idea to do
yeah,
um at the time. Like doing like these double reverse receiver passes of
yeah,
that's 3rd and 1.
yeah,
Why are we doing this? Like just yeah. I'm hoping it's something like that. I'm hoping it gets more back to what Dak was really successful at before when they did a lot more play action. Now that we have Tony Pollard to him, we should have some more explosiveness at running back. There's no reason why we can't start working out play actions because I think one thing that Dak is really good at doing and will continue to be because especially now that he's 2 years more healed from his severe ankle injury and a little bit further from his calf injury. I think rolling out, getting on that play action is what he does best, and I think he'll be good doing that again.
yeah,
I think Mike McCarthy is going to play more to what Dak's strengths and abilities are. I would like to see him use his feet more. I felt like he didn't do it as much this past year and in
yeah.
the playoffs, but I would like to see him do that more and slide, please. And uh, I think that would help a lot, to
Yeah,
bring that dynamic
Dak
back
definitely
for him.
has to. Dak has to play better this year. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
he definitely has to play better this year, but we'll see, man.
I'm
I think
excited.
I think out of that division,
Hmm.
I mean, the Cowboys they have the opportunity to win that division. Me personally, you're gonna hate me for this. I have to go with the Philadelphia Eagles because their
Hmm.
defense and what they have over there and what they like drafted as far as defense is so good. And I said last year that I think with the pieces they brought in for Jalen Hurst and what they put around him, um, it just, to me, man, it was like, dude, they're going all out for this kid to bring in who they need to. They let go of
Hmm.
Miles Sanders, but they brought in DeAndre Swift. They have Rashad Penny. Boston Scott is still there. And then as far as your wide receivers go, man, you got Devontae Smith, Greg Ward. Um, what's his name?
Bro,
Where's the one
how,
guy at?
bro, all those Georgia players on Philadelphia are gonna get indicted with the rest of the school.
Probably. I hope
that
so. I hope
would
so.
that would suck for them because they
AJ
couldn't
Brown.
play.
That's who I was thinking of. AJ Brown.
AJ,
Like
yeah,
when
AJ
they
Brown's good.
when they brought those guys in and stuff, it was like, dude, they're set up to win this like division, and I feel like they're still in that situation. Because the thing with Jalen Hurts is he is not a quarterback that is going to force the football. Like he does a really good job of reading defenses, knowing what is given to him, and working within that. And if he doesn't have it, he can make plays with his feet. Like he's not a guy that's going to like force a lot down the field, force a lot of like bad throws and all that stuff. And I think that's what hurts a lot of teams when they play them is because their defense is so good. Their defense can keep the offense in games if they're not performing that day.
Hmm.
And that's why you like, but teams they haven't figured out how do we get after Jalen Hurts to make him, underperform because there's so many things you have to account for within that offense. So I'm giving the advantage to that team in the division based off of what they got coming back, what they've acquired in the offseason. But then again, at the end of the day, man, like we can make all these picks, and hell, by week 4, you can have a team lose half their roster. Like
Yeah,
due
it
to injuries and
sucks.
stuff.
I
So
think that's another thing too. Like you know, like last year, Micah had to play hurt. We had a
yeah,
couple of injuries on offense. Yeah, like some pretty bad injuries going into the end of the year with on the secondary. Um, man, I hate to say it, it feels like as a Cowboys fan, every year there's a couple of injuries that happen. It's like, dude, why is it always like this? I mean, knock on wood, I don't want that. Of course, no one does, but injuries are part of the game, and it's those are kind of challenges that teams have to face, and that's why they say next man up because it usually ends up being the situation for every team at some point.
yeah.
Um, but I'm hoping that we can stay as healthy as possible because um, that makes a big difference when some guys are there and some guys aren't. You know.
All right, let me ask you this question, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay.
Hmm.
Out of the rookies that are drafted this year, okay,
Yeah.
your fantasy football lineup, okay,
Hmm.
which one of these rookies, if you have the opportunity to draft them early,
Yes.
are you taking on your team?
Honestly, just based on the team, the personnel, the offensive play style, and that player's abilities, I would go with Bijan all the way.
You
Bijan
saying Bijan
Robinson from
Robinson? Hell yeah,
yeah, and the
bro.
Falcons all the way. The
Yes.
Falcons all the way. You got a
Yes.
quarterback like Marcus Mariota. That whole Atlanta team is built for speed. It's built for screens and quick plays.
Yep.
They're gonna want to run the option with Mariota and him because they're both pretty quick. They're gonna do like a lot of little swing passes to Bijan screens. It's set up for not only the offense in Atlanta to be successful. It's set up for him to be successful. That's why they drafted him because they want him to be the centerpiece of that offense there with Marcus Mariota and be a big part and the main part of the run game and even in the passing game. So I think Bijan, for fantasy wise, has the potential to really explode. And I mean, just every game, bring it and hammer it out. Granted, it's a tough position. He's going to play more games than he's used to now that he's a pro, but. I would definitely grab Bijan Robinson if you can early. That would be. I think that's going to be a big steal for somebody.
Yep.
I'll try to grab him.
I was thinking the same exact thing. I was thinking Bijan
He's
Robinson,
just in
man,
the perfect place.
all
I
the
mean, as much as
way.
I love him to come to Dallas, much as I would love for him to come to Dallas, I was sad to go. But I knew I really kind of put in my mind, considering how far we got and we got into the playoffs and everything, that we weren't going to be able to draft him because of how high his value was. So I already prepared myself for that. But I think out of all the teams he got picked up by, Atlanta is very ideal for Bijan's play style, and he's going to fit in well with their offense. Man, they're a fast team, and they just added more speed at the running back position.
But
And he can catch. And he can catch. He's
yeah,
pretty solid at catching.
he's a 3 down back. Like
Yeah.
anybody that I can get that's a 3-down back that is young and hasn't
Yeah.
had like huge
Serious
impact
injuries.
injuries, like I'm taking that person because there's a good chance that if a drive in a series is going well, they're going to stay within
Yeah.
that. They're a multiple threat. They can hit big home run like runs out of the backfield. They can catch the ball in the
Yep.
backfield, make big plays.
And I don't think he has as much mileage as like when Zeke
No,
came into the league or like when Saquon came to the league. His legs are more relatively fresh. And he can block. So like you said, he's a 3-down back. He can do all three of those services for you: catch, run, and block. That's all you. That's all you can ask for, right? In getting a rookie running back. I think he might have a big season, man. You never know.
I
This
would
might be the
say
perfect place for him.
definitely Robinson is who I'm taking early if I can get him from a
Yeah.
rookie standpoint. The second person that I think has huge potential upside with the team that they went to and what they have around them is Jackson Smith and Njigba. They have a veteran quarterback who's been in the league for a long time. You have 2 wide receivers who can stretch the field in Lockett and Metcalf. You have solid running backs behind them if they can stay healthy. I honestly think he is going to have a tremendous rookie year as far as wide receiver go because I see the middle of the field being spread wide open for this guy to just dump across, make quick little catches, get up, get yards. I don't know about touchdown production and everything from him because of Lockett and Metcalf, but just what those two can do on the outside and how they can stretch the field, I think the Seahawks got a lot of weapons, and I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is another one that if I can get, I'm going to try to get him. I think he's going to have a good upside.
Yeah. Absolutely, for sure.
That's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate you guys tuning in, listening. Caboose, I saw you. I appreciate you just coming in, saying hi. Sorry I wasn't very communicative in the chat and everything. But Zudo, always appreciate you hanging out, man. So we are the Fourth Quarter Fanatics, baby. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Be sure to follow us on YouTube. Okay, we do have a YouTube page where all these are uploaded. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on YouTube in the comments. Give us your guys' thoughts, your input on what you think as far as like fantasy potential for teams, players, things like that.
Absolutely.
And then personally, my other socials are selfless_gaming. Find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff. And then go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, guys, Little Jacob. That's Little with a 3 instead of an E. You can also find me on TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. I also have a Facebook page when you use it. But yeah, feel free to reach out, whether it's about gaming, sports, or just what your picks are. We'd like to hear about it. Let us know who you think is going to be a bust or boom. We're not paid professionals, so whatever you bet any money on anything. Don't say we told you so. We're just giving our opinion as amateur fantasy football players.
Yep. If you guys want me to be a professional, pay me like a professional. We appreciate you guys. Y'all continue to take care of yourselves. Continue to take care of each other. We will definitely see you next week, baby.
Later.
All right.
Dude, it's crazy, man. Like it's